probably no more important than any other parent's story, but I just thought, it would be an interesting contribution. I'm sure every story is different. I don't know, I loved school, I loved learning, and after doing my undergrad, I had worked for a little while, then I went back and did my master's, and I worked for a few years again, and after that I was extra motivated to come and do my PhD, I guess. I enjoyed working, but I really missed being able to learn and be independent in the way that I feel like I'm able to do, especially in graduate school. So that's why I decided to do that, although I applied to do my PhD, and then within the next few weeks found out that I was pregnant with, and I had a year maternity leave from the work where I was working at the time, where I was employed at the time, and he was just about a year old when I came back to do my PhD. So I was very torn about whether to do that or not, because when I had asked about the deferral, they said, yes, we'll give you the deferral, but just so you know, you can't come part-time, you will have to be a full-time student. And at the time, I didn't know exactly what that would mean in terms of workload, how many days a week I would need to work. I think you had a mentor program through the family care office, and I hooked up with a mentor, and she had a boy and she said she was able to do her work, in about 3 days a week, sometimes in crunch time 4 days a week. And I figured, okay, well, that's a lot better than full-time work with being gone, 9 to 5 at least, if not, 7 kind of thing. And I really wanted to make sure that I was still spending a significant amount of time with him. So I said, okay, well, we'll give it a try. And honestly, I had decided I was going to give it a semester. It was really, really, really hard for me to think about leaving, and I didn't know if I was going to be stressed out and overwhelmed all the time. But the first semester, it was a lot of work and everything, but it went well, and I really enjoyed it, and so obviously I've continued on since then. I wish I did remember how I found out about the FCO office and programs. But anyway, obviously I did find out about the FCO office, and definitely accessing, the resources that were offered was a big part of me feeling comfortable making the decision that, yes, I will try going ahead with my PhD, even though I felt a lot of apprehension and anxiety about doing that, because I know a year is great compared to in the States or Australia, but I really felt like he was still so young, and I just didn't feel ready to leave him. So finding that there were supports available and the peer support program definitely helped me feel comfortable with going ahead. So the most helpful part of the FCO mentoring program that I was a part of, I would say just hearing from someone who was in the position that I would soon be in, hearing her personal experience and that she had found it manageable, and that she had found that she still had a significant amount of time to spend with her son, which was extremely important to me. So having that support, knowing that I could get in touch with her if I had, random questions that popped into my mind. Well, what about this? Should I ask my department? Do I ask my supervisor? Where do I go? She, helped guide me in those ways. And then, after I began school, I wasn't in touch with her as much, and I think part of that is because my supervisor, who I had known for a couple of years before starting, she herself is a mother, and so she acted as a support for me. I mean, she's a busy mother of two, she's cross-appointed in 2 departments, and has actually a job somewhere else as well as being a faculty member here, so she's very busy, but I just always knew that support was there because she herself had both of her children during her PhD. She knew what it felt like to go through that experience and would never put any kind of pressure on me in any way, just knowing that I was juggling 2, very big responsibilities. I would say at home, obviously my husband is a huge support, and here at U of T, I would say, like I said, that the department is trying to create a culture of being supportive of parents. But I don't know if I really accessed all of the supports that are out there. And with the, the FCO, the family care office, I know you often have get-togethers and that kind of thing, but I honestly feel like between trying to get my work done, trying to spend time with your team, get all the strange little administrative bits and pieces that need to get done as part of my program, trying to shop, get the house cleaned, make food, I just don't have time. I feel like I honestly don't have time to access all of what is available. My husband and I split childcare, so I have one day where I work and my husband has one day where he works. He's an artist, so he has a flexible schedule. which is great. And again, that was not negotiation, but figuring out in the beginning, because I didn't know if my husband would want to do that or if he would feel like he wanted to be working full time. But, we just had a talk because I was feeling very anxious about leaving, and I did not want to leave him in daycare. I've just never felt like that was going to be right for us. So, I was asking my mom if she could come here. She was traveling at the time, but she didn't feel like that was going to work, and so I was getting stressed out the closer we were getting to, September. Anyway, then my husband and I had a talk, and he said that was actually something that he would really like to do, to be, very, very involved and to split our time. So that's what we do. That's been going on for the whole time, and it's not always easy because, sometimes one or the other of us has looming deadlines, and, we're up late trying to do things. Adam goes to bed or whatever, because I get 3 days a week to work almost. That's basically my maximum, so it's always very, very dense, intense days. Oh, and you were asking where I work, right? So it depends if I'm TAing or not. So last semester, I had all of my whole appointment in one semester this year. So I worked in my office in PGB quite a bit of the time, just because I was there TAing anyway and holding office hours. But now I'm not TAing this semester, so I'm working at home basically all the time. My typical day. Well, like I said, my schedule is split. So usually I work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then my husband works Tuesday, Thursday, and sometimes Saturdays, quite often Saturdays. So a typical work day for me, I usually, especially now that I'm at home and I don't have the commute time of coming down to school, a nice breakfast together and a little, sometimes we have a bit of playtime in the morning depending on what time he wakes up. And then I usually start work around 9, and that involves walking down to the basement and doing my work. And then I always come up for lunch. He usually calls me and says, "Mommy, come upstairs, my lunch is ready." So I'll go up and we'll have our lunch together. And then I go back down and I work until about 5:30, come up, make dinner, we eat our dinner together, and have the rest of the evening together. So he always knows when I'm done my work day, that's it. I don't go back down to the basement. It's then our time to be together. And then on a Tuesday or a Thursday, we'll have what we call our special days together. And that can involve things like after our interview today, I have to go and do a lot of administrative stuff in the department. So signing forms, picking up letters, dropping in receipts, that kind of thing. And I always bring him with me for things like that. So I usually try and bring him to meetings with my supervisor. As I was saying, she is herself a parent, so she understands that our meetings have to be short. I'm going to bring coloring books. He's going to be asking me questions while we're talking. But I bring him to everything that I can. And I don't know if all departments are like this, but my department, they're trying to create more of a culture of bringing your children and involving them in things. And so I was always told, for, different talks and speakers that would come that I could bring. And I never felt that I could, because I felt it wasn't really fair to him, because he would like my attention, he'd like to be doing things. But they are trying to create that culture, and some profs in my department bring, there's one who's actually brought her children to thesis defenses. They bring them all the time to meetings with their students. And definitely there are more student parents around, I think, than there used to be. Basically, I used to work in my first year when I was taking courses, TAing, trying to set up a committee. I found that year the hardest. Also, it was just me in transition. He was so much younger. I still wasn't sleeping through the night. So in that year, I felt like I was basically working 7 days a week. And then my husband and I mean, he was too. We were trying to get our work done, and it was so difficult in the time that we had. And so we decided, okay, well, we have to take Sundays off at least. We have to have 1 day a week where we're not thinking about work, where we're not stressed out, where we can just focus on our family. So that worked out. Somehow we squished things into 6 days instead of 7 days. And then now I feel like I can take Saturdays and Sundays off, during the day, but sometimes I'll have to, if he wakes up a little later, I'll get up early and, do whatever stuff I need to do. My struggles and rewards as a student parent. I guess one struggle is that I feel, probably all early parents feel like this, but I feel like my husband and I get very little time together because I have this huge workload of school, and then when I don't have that, I really want to spend the time with Joaquin, and of course he wants to spend time with me. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is making sure that we have time for each other, and then trying to not feel guilty if he and I want to have a date together. I feel like we don't get enough time together. And then if I say, well, okay, so there's going to be a babysitter tonight, and he's like, oh, but you were working on your stuff all day long, and now you're going to leave and go out with Daddy. But I'm sure that all parents feel like that no matter what their work is, so I don't think it's really unique or specific to, being a graduate student. Well, I feel like I have to work very intensely, and I have no wiggle room, I have 3 days that I get to work, and if my husband has to leave early one day, I feel like I have to make that up at another time, either me getting up early, going to bed late, negotiating with my husband to get a little bit more time. But I feel like that almost never happens. On the other hand, I feel like it's made my program a lot more enjoyable because probably many PhD students are kind of obsessive achievers, and I guess I am one of those, and so I feel like it really has helped me balance things out, because before I never would have accepted that I just had to be done. I just had to put things away and be done. Whereas now at the end of the day, Joaquin needs me, or on the weekend, that's our family time, and we try to keep that sacred. And so, that's a big stress reliever. It's not me saying, oh, you don't have any more work to do. It's a little person who you think is very important in your life, who you want to devote your time and energy to. So I think that my family responsibilities have made my work more challenging in a way, but also I think made the whole program a lot more balanced for me, which sounds, I think, surprising for a lot of people, but that's how I've found it. The first 2 years I was on what's called the University Fellowship, and then I just constantly apply for any scholarships, grants, anything that comes up. And now I have SSHRC. So for these last 2 years, my university education is funded by SSHRC plus whatever other funding I get. Usually these days I'm applying just for funding to cover my project expenses because I'm working with the community 4 hours away, so I'm traveling, need to pay for accommodation and that kind of thing. Oh, and I TA, of course. I've been TAing every year. I would say that my department is exceeding my expectations, just in being a very, very supportive department, and there are, many faculty members who are younger, who are starting families, and then ones who are older who are already they've gone through the ringer with the whole juggling act. So I guess in that way my department has been supportive, and then the fact that a family care office is here at all is a big bonus, that I could be accessing it more, and that I did feel like it was very influential in my decision to start the program in general. And then I guess the Family Resource Center has been, it has been a really fun place in that this is the second meeting that I've had here. I had to meet with the course instructor for the course that I was TAing, and I figured, so he came here and he was able to play, and we got to, have a productive meeting, and she's a young person too who's thinking of starting a family, so for her it was actually kind of neat to see what's available at the university. And then another way I would say the university is exceeding my expectations is that I have probably many PhD students run into this, but I've actually gotten an injury, so I have wrist tendonitis, and I've started going through accessibility services, and they have been very helpful. Now, this isn't directly related to parenting, but, when you have a little kid, when you're typing all the time, you get a repetitive strain injury, and you have a little kid who you're lifting up and, cooking for and moving big heavy toys for and stuff like that, your repetitive strain injury, you have a harder time healing from those kind of things. So I felt like they have been very helpful. Things have been very slow to progress, but they've been there, very supportive, and, guiding me along the right way to go to get help.